The rain slicks the pavement, turning London lanes into a gauntlet of bad angles and blind corners. A cyclist swerves across the lane, forcing a delivery truck to slam its brakes. A bus inches forward, missing a parked car by mere centimeters. This is the daily rhythm of the city, a chaotic dance of steel, glass, and human unpredictability. Every intersection is a puzzle of shifting barriers and sudden movements. The city does not play by simple rules. It breathes, shifts, and forces every driver to react in the split-second gap between decision and disaster. For the giants of technology, this is not just a commute. It is the ultimate proving ground. $200 billion are riding on the outcome of this struggle. Two companies are betting their entire future on mastering this specific, unforgiving labyrinth. The race is not for speed, but for the first million robotaxi rides per week. As the city grid locks up, the real competition begins in the shadows of the skyscrapers. The streets are ready, the software is being tested, and the margin for error is absolute zero. The solution to the London puzzle lies in two distinct, clashing philosophies. In one corner stands Waymo, a titan backed by Alphabet. Their strategy relies on a fortress of high-cost hardware, utilizing spinning Lidar sensors that sweep the environment in constant, rhythmic pulses. They treat the world as a data set to be measured, mapped, and verified against a preloaded digital twin. Every shadow, curb, and lane marking must be accounted for before the wheels even turn. They bet on the certainty of precision. Directly across from this, a UK startup named Wayve is betting on a different evolution. They reject the heavy, expensive LiDAR arrays. Instead, they pursue pure vision AI, a system designed to look at the road and process it like a human eye. Their cars carry no crutch of static maps. They rely on neural networks trained to learn from experience, attempting to replicate the intuitive snap decisions of a veteran driver. It is a fundamental divide. One side builds a robot that follows a perfect, pre-calculated script. The other side builds a student that learns to navigate the chaos as it happens. The race is on to see which vision of the future survives the test of the city. Waymo vehicles arrive in the city as mobile laboratories of measurement. Each unit is crowned with a spinning LiDAR array, a rapid-fire emitter that bounces millions of laser pulses off every surface within reach. These sensors generate a persistent 3D point cloud of the world in real time. Before a car moves even a single inch, it initiates a constant verification loop. The software compares the physical reality outside the glass against a preloaded, centimeter-accurate digital map. If a construction crew shifts a safety barrier by a mere few inches, the car registers the change instantly. The system does not guess, it verifies. It knows the exact distance to a curb, the precise height of a pedestrian, and the exact width of a lane. This reliance on heavy hardware creates a bubble of total certainty. There is no ambiguity in the data. Every object is identified, tracked, and mapped against the static environment. The car moves with a deliberate, calculated rhythm because it operates within a world it already understands. This is the hallmark of the Waymo model: absolute safety through total control. For these vehicles, the chaos of London is not a problem to be solved with intuition, but a variable to be measured and contained. Yet, this mountain of certainty is built on a foundation of immense, hidden labor. The precision that allows a Waymo vehicle to navigate a London lane is not a default feature of the city. It is a manufactured product. To launch in a new territory, the company must commit to months of grueling, street-level data collection. Specialized teams drive every mile, multiple times, under varying light conditions to feed the insatiable appetite of the mapping engine. This is not merely driving. It is an exhaustive architectural survey. Massive server farms then process these petabytes of data, turning raw sensor pulses into the static, centimeter-accurate digital maps that the cars rely upon. The cost is staggering. Every new city requires a fresh, colossal investment of time, computing power, and boots-on-the-ground survey work. This creates a hard ceiling for expansion, while the vehicles themselves perform with unrivaled reliability. The architectural requirement acts as a brake on the company's growth. They are not just building software, they are building a digital duplicate of the world, and that duplicate must be maintained, updated, and verified constantly. The more complex the urban environment, the heavier the burden of this mapping process becomes. For Waymo, the challenge is no longer just about driving safely. It is about finding a way to scale this exhaustive, expensive precision to a global level. Wayve operates on a fundamentally different premise. Their vehicles carry no heavy laser arrays, no preloaded digital maps, and no reliance on pre-verified environments. Instead, they operate on a pure vision system. The car is equipped with a suite of cameras that feed into a sophisticated neural network designed to mimic the way a human driver processes the road. It does not search for a map match. It observes the scene in real time. The AI identifies objects, interprets traffic flow, and determines its trajectory based on what it sees in that exact moment. This is end-to-end learning in action. The software does not follow a pre-calculated script. It constantly refines its behavior through a feedback loop, learning from every human intervention recorded during its test drives. Because the system requires no prior infrastructure or centimeter-accurate mapping, the barrier to entry vanishes. In theory, a Wayve vehicle could be dropped into a new city overnight, rely on its visual intuition, and begin navigating immediately. It is an attempt to replicate the adaptability of a person rather than the rigid precision of a machine. This model offers a path toward rapid, global scalability, unburdened by the massive mapping requirements that slow down the competition. For Wayve, the goal is to make the car see the world as a driver does, fluid, responsive, and ready for the unexpected. Yet, this reliance on sight alone draws sharp criticism from industry veterans. They argue that a system stripped of secondary sensors lacks the bedrock of safety. Without Lidar to bounce light pulses off the world, how does the car perceive depth when the London fog rolls in? In heavy mist, cameras lose contrast, turning the road into a washed-out blur. Proponents of traditional methods point to the Thames, where the low-hanging morning sun reflects off the water, creating blinding glare across the riverbanks. A camera can be overwhelmed by such luminance, losing track of lane lines and nearby obstacles in a fraction of a second. The critics are blunt. Vision is not enough. They maintain that hardware redundancy is the only path to the elusive goal of 99.999% reliability. To them, Wayve is walking a tightrope without a net. Wayve engineers counter with a different philosophy. They argue that Lidar acts as a crutch that prevents the artificial intelligence from ever truly wrestling with the visual complexity of the road. They claim the system must learn to see through the glare, not hide behind extra hardware. As the testing phase hits the streets, the debate intensifies. Is the machine safer with a backup sense? Or does that backup limit the AI's ability to interpret the world like a human? The data began to accumulate the moment the vehicles hit the asphalt. In the dense labyrinth of the city, the differences emerged with brutal clarity. A Waymo vehicle, following its preloaded digital map, turned into a narrow alleyway recently blocked by a delivery van. The car stopped. It sat motionless, its sensors scanning the obstruction, unable to reconcile the reality of the dead end with its rigid, centimeter-accurate map. It remained frozen, waiting for remote override as traffic backed up behind it. Meanwhile, across town, a Wayve vehicle approached a chaotic, multi-lane roundabout. It did not hesitate. It processed the swirling traffic, identified the gaps between moving buses and erratic cyclists, and entered the flow with a smooth, decisive motion. It handled the curve like a seasoned commuter, shifting lanes and yielding exactly when required. The contrast was undeniable. Where the precision of the map failed, the intuition of the vision-only AI thrived. For the first time, the race felt less like a technical demonstration and more like a genuine duel for the future of the streets. The momentum swung sharply toward the startup, as the ability to navigate without a tether proved to be a decisive advantage in the unpredictable pulse of London. The triumph of the roundabout was short-lived. Just minutes later, the same Wayve vehicle cruised down a quiet residential street, the late afternoon sun casting long, sharp silhouettes across the asphalt. Without warning, the car slammed its brakes. It lurched to a violent halt, throwing the cabin into sudden, jarring stillness. There was nothing in front of the vehicle. No pedestrian, no stray dog, no debris. The vision system had registered a dark, elongated shadow as a solid, physical barrier. It reacted with the absolute certainty of a machine, locking the wheels to prevent an impact that did not exist. Behind it, a taxi driver swerved and laid on the horn, narrowly avoiding a rear-end collision. The Wayve car remained frozen, paralyzed by its own inability to distinguish between a projection of light and a threat to life. The engineers, watching the remote telemetry feed, sat in tense silence. This was the nightmare scenario for the vision-only approach. When the system was wrong, it was dangerously wrong, overriding logic with a false sense of urgency. The incident rippled through the testing data, a stark reminder that intuition is a fickle substitute for physical depth perception. In that moment, the narrative of a perfect, human-like driver shattered against the cold reality of a software glitch, forcing the entire industry to question the price of skipping redundant sensors. The stakes climbed higher with every passing day, turning the streets into a $200 billion battlefield. Both companies accelerated their efforts, pouring massive capital into a final, desperate push to reach the 1 million ride milestone. Waymo executives scrambled to slash the production costs of their sensor suites, desperate to make their map-heavy architecture viable at a massive scale. They flooded the city with hardware, betting that their proven reliability would win the confidence of the public. Across the industry, the race became an arms race of data and dollars. Wayve responded by diverting every available resource into their neural network, training the system on millions of miles of new, complex footage to purge the shadow glitch from their logic. They were betting their entire future on a single premise: that their vision system could eventually surpass human capability. Boards of directors demanded progress reports by the hour, and engineering teams worked in shifts to refine their algorithms under the pressure of a ticking clock. The air in their headquarters grew thick with the intensity of the competition. Every ride logged was a point scored. Every successful journey brought them closer to setting the global standard. The theoretical debate was over. Now, it was a brutal, high-speed game of numbers, where the winner would dictate the architecture of autonomous transport for the next decade. The testing window closed, leaving behind terabytes of data and a city forever changed by the presence of these machines. London streets remained the ultimate judge, indifferent to the billions of dollars spent or the ambitions of the engineers behind the screens. One model had offered the unyielding precision of a robot, a system tethered to maps and sensors that prioritized safety through rigid, predictable rules. The other had provided a glimpse of organic adaptability, a machine learning to interpret the world through eyes that saw what we saw, for better or worse. There was no clear winner, only a fundamental divide in the path forward. Precision promised reliability, but it came with the weight of massive infrastructure. Adaptability promised freedom, but it carried the risk of human-like error. As the final reports were filed and the prototypes retired, the true test moved from the controlled environment of the trial to the unpredictable reality of the road. The race to 1 million rides was never merely a software milestone. It was a mirror held up to our own understanding of intelligence. Whoever eventually claims the crown will define the next decade of transit, but for now, the city continues its dance of chaos and order, waiting to see which vision will finally earn its place in the lane.